gravel driveway, you know that in the wintertime it gets all rutted out. So in the spring you gotta drag the road and get it all smoothed out again. What do you say, Brucey?
It's an awesome job!
We're going to construct a garden that pays tribute to American heroes throughout our history. Now this bill, it would start the process of building this big, beautiful garden by creating a fund that any citizen can contribute to for the construction and the maintenance of the garden. This week I took students onto the floor of the House of Representatives at about 7 a.m. before the official legislative work was being done. They came ready with questions and they had a blast talking about Congress, seeing where the work is done, going into the original floor of the House of Representatives, the rotunda, taking a picture on the Capitol steps.
May this celebration be one of life, one of communities, and a reminder of our shared humanity, our hope for a shared future, and the pursuit of justice and peace. I'm honored to stand with the Muslim community in Illinois 3, our nation, and all around the world. And on behalf of my office, Eid Mubarak.
The top story, of course, was Signalgate, where top officials, Secretary of Defense, National Security Advisor, and the Vice President himself, they discussed detailed war plans on Signal, and they accidentally added a reporter, didn't even notice. Then they denied that it was secret intelligence, even though it described weapon systems, time and place of attack. Our pilots could have been killed.
From a practical purposes standpoint, from a security standpoint, certainly from a government efficiency and taxpayer dollar standpoint, it makes absolute zero sense. So we're going to continue to press. We're going to continue to demand accountability.
His argument is essentially, yes, he's a liar, but so is everyone else, and he's your liar. He's your liar. If you can convince people that everything is lies, if you can convince people that they're entitled to their own alternate facts, to quote the infamous Kellyanne Conway, then what basis do we have for democratic governance? How do we decide what policy should be? How do we decide who should govern? What is left but falling back on political tribe or on violence?
And President Johnson said, you know, you're right, I understand, but I can't get a voting rights bill through the Congress right now. I just passed the Civil Rights Bill of 1964, and that was a heavy lift. There's no way that I'm going to be able to do that. I just, in various ways, he kept saying, I just don't have the power right now to do it. And Martin Luther King Jr., as they left and got in the car, he turned to Andy Young and his other lieutenants and said, well, the president says he doesn't have the power. I guess we're going to have to go and get the president some power.
As the first openly LGBTQ mayor of a major American city, Houston, Anise shattered barriers and showed millions of people that LGBTQ Americans belong in government and in every part of public life. Her work wasn't just about representation, it was about action. She fought for equality, for fairness, and for a Texas where everyone, no matter who they love, has the opportunity to thrive.
However, during his meeting in China last week, he says he felt listened to by Chinese leaders.
Many of the licenses that were in place for 5 years, they expired that allow us to process and ship the beef to China. So that was a very important issue I brought up with the Chinese. We need to renew these licenses and continue supplying that Chinese market with U.S. beef. I was listened to, I can tell you that.
And you're here because you recognize the obligation you have at a moment like this, in a place like this, where the whole world is watching, where your kids and grandkids are watching and asking, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to stay inside? Are you going to keep the door shut? Or are you going to stand up for what matters?
This is the fundamental question. Who runs the country? We the people, and the people who put their name on the ballot who we elect, or the experts, the unelected judges, or worse yet, the unelected bureaucrats who the left always seems to want to empower, like the Faucis of the world who ran our life, ran our country for 4 stinking years during the Biden administration. So, yeah, this is the fundamental question. It's the people. 77 million of them voted for the guy who put his name on a ballot, went out and ran, told us he was going to secure the border and do the things he's doing, and that you have a judge judge in Timbuktu, California, who can do some order or some injunction and stop that. That is not how our system is supposed to work. And this is so important, so important. It's we the people, and the people that we elect who make the decisions.
My job is to enforce the rule of law, period. When Donald Trump became president, it became clear that he would take whatever actions he wanted to, despite the rule of law. It's important, I think, for people to understand that we're not the resistance, we're not the opposition. What we're doing is ensuring that the rule of law continues.
Yeah, and I ran into a 77-year-old widow who's telling me that she doesn't know what she'd do. She's beside herself at the prospect of missing even one paycheck. And that mayhem right now we're seeing as they cut 12% of the workforce.
All right, so Congressman James, you're not talking to your constituents. You're hiding. So my buddy Maxwell and I are here in your district. But we got a bunch of your constituents who have a question for you. So what is your question for Congressman John James?
Yeah, right. Someone has to be held accountable, and obviously this will never happen again. But instead, you dig your feet in the sand, and as a result, we're less safe.
This is a 1-2 punch of hypocrisy and incompetence, and it's a gut punch to the U.S. military. One, because Secretary Hegseth and Mike Walls and Tulsi Gabbard, they are lying in order to avoid accountability for acts that, if a corporal or a captain had committed them, would lead to court-martial and the end of your career. And that kind of double standard, it undermines good order and discipline within the ranks.
Yesterday, it said, today I introduced H.R. 2356, the Dual Loyalty Disclosure Act. If we continue allowing dual citizens to run for federal office, candidates should disclose to voters all countries in which they hold citizenship. Thank you, co-sponsors, Representative Andy Biggs, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Clay Higgins. Now, the only thing shocking or outrageous about this is that apparently it isn't already a requirement that they disclose this kind of information.